In the 1970s, the small farming town of Skidmore, Missouri, was quiet and isolated. Fewer than 500 people lived there, and most of them had known each other their entire lives. But under the surface of this rural community lived a dark secret. The people of Skidmore lived in fear of one man, Ken Rex McElroy. McElroy had a reputation that stretched across the county. He was a thief, a bully, and a violent criminal. He stole livestock, harassed neighbors, and threatened anyone who stood in his way. He was accused of burglary, assault, arson, statutory rape, and even attempted murder. He was suspected in countless crimes, yet he almost never faced consequences. Over the years, more than 20 charges were brought against him. But every time, the cases fell apart. Witnesses were too afraid to testify. Victims were too scared to press charges. McElroy made it clear that if anyone crossed him, he would make them pay. People who spoke out against him were stalked, threatened, and sometimes attacked. He always carried a gun. He always made his presence known. And the town learned that silence was the only protection they had. But in 1980, everything changed. McElroy's daughter stole a piece of candy from a small grocery store owned by a 70-year-old man named Bo Bowenkamp. When Bo confronted the child and asked her to return the candy, McElroy became furious. He began harassing the Bowenkamps, parking his truck outside their home for hours, staring them down and threatening them. The tension grew until one night, McElroy confronted Bo with a rifle and shot him in the neck. Miraculously, Bo survived. But the town had seen enough. This was no longer just intimidation. This was attempted murder, carried out in broad daylight against a defenseless man. McElroy was finally arrested and charged. For a moment, it looked as if justice might finally catch up with him. But even then, McElroy managed to escape punishment. Through appeals and legal maneuvers, he was released on bail, free to roam the streets of Skidmore once again. He returned to town, smug and unafraid, and he made sure everyone knew that he was untouchable. He drove slowly through the streets, glaring at neighbors. He parked outside the Bowenkamp home with a rifle in his truck. He openly bragged that he would never spend a single day behind bars. The law had failed the people once again, and fear hung over Skidmore like a storm cloud. By July of 1981, the town had reached its breaking point. A meeting was called at the local tavern. Dozens of residents gathered, desperate to find a way to protect themselves. They talked about McElroy, about his violence, about the threats that never seemed to stop. As the meeting ended, fate intervened. McElroy himself arrived at the tavern with his wife, walked in with his rifle, and sat at the bar as if daring the town to challenge him. Later that afternoon, McElroy and his wife climbed into their pickup truck parked outside. A crowd of nearly 50 townspeople surrounded him. No one spoke. No one moved. And then, shots rang out. Bullets shattered the windows of the truck. When the smoke cleared, McElroy was slumped over the steering wheel, dead. His reign of terror had ended in an instant. But the most remarkable part of the story was what came after. Despite dozens of witnesses, no one admitted to seeing who pulled the trigger. The police questioned the crowd again and again, but every person gave the same answer: "I didn't see anything." Not one person came forward. Not one name was spoken. No arrests were made. No charges were filed. The case went cold the moment it began. And officially, the murder of Ken Rex McElroy remains unsolved to this day. For the people of Skidmore, life changed forever after that day. Some believed justice had finally been served. Others saw it as lawlessness, a community taking matters into its own hands. But one truth remained. For years, McElroy had silenced the town with fear. And in the end, the town answered with silence of its own. This is the story of the town that hid a killer.